Here's a game that's become something of a conversation piece in the SNES library. Hagane, The Final Conflict. Developed by CA Productions and published by Hudson Soft, this game saw a Japanese release in 1994, followed by a North American and European release in 1995, and no one seems to remember any of that at all, which is something I'll get into later. For now, let's have a look at this thing. Yes, I know it looks like a typical side-scrolling action platformer, very much in the same vein as Shinobi, Ninja Gaiden, or Strider, but this is Hagane, you dicks, so pay attention. Alright, so, you could try watching the intro cutscene to understand what's happening, but I wouldn't recommend it because it will honestly leave you with more questions than answers. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Alright, thankfully the instruction manual fills us in. So, the Koma clan are a bunch of bad guys who blow up the village of the Fuma clan in order to steal the Holy Grail so they can use it to destroy the world. They thought they got everyone, but one man was left alive, or at least his brain was. You probably know where this is going, and yes, the brain was placed in a robot body, thus creating Hagane, a certified cyborg samurai out for revenge. So that kind of explains what's going on, but let's see how this thing plays. With a cyborg samurai as the main character, expectations are pretty high, and thankfully Hagane has a pretty robust moveset. He has 4 main weapons that you can swap between: a katana, shurikens, bombs, and a grappling hook. There's also the ninja art, which is both a screen-clearing attack and a major bane for anyone prone to epileptic seizures. On top of that, he has special attacks that could be performed using the shoulder buttons to wind up the attack, followed by the press of either the Y or B button. Depending on the length of the wind-up and the button pressed, you could do 1 of 6 attacks, including this death kick, which is just a little bit overpowered.
Hagane, I have waited centuries for this much. Oh, shit!
And finally, Hagane has some pretty awesome movement tech that includes backflips, slides, wall jumps, spinning jumps, ceiling grabs, and head stomps. With all of this going on, it could be a bit overwhelming, but effective use of movement tech and attacks makes certain areas of the game a whole lot easier. In fact, there were abilities I wasn't even aware of until I reached a point where they were necessary to use. Like, up until here, I had no idea you can grab on the underside of things. But it does seem like a lot of this moveset is underutilized and borderline useless, especially when you learn you could just backflip through the entire level. Speaking of levels, this game is broken up into 5 chapters, each of which have around 3 to 5 levels and at least 1 boss fight contained within. And I gotta hand it to the development team, the levels are quite varied and unique. The entirety of Chapter 3 in particular stands out, as you start out fighting on top of this flying death ship, then kick your way inside to fight and blow up the engine, then hop on a hoverboard for a dramatic Mode 7 escape, and then, in the final stretch of the chapter, once you're outside, you see the whole thing go down in a massive explosion in the background. Now that's awesome. It's also worth mentioning that damn near all these levels are difficult. You have a 3-hit health bar, which can be increased to 5. Take too many hits and you die, and you will die often. Die too much and you get game over, but don't worry, this game offers infinite continues, which will drop you back at the beginning of the chapter. You'll have to do all the same levels again, but you will learn tricks, patterns, and exploits that will make all the retreading go by super quickly. Like here, I'm clearly having a pretty awful time, but after a few game over continues, I could fly through like a friggin' pinball. The enemies run the gamut in this game, ranging from your standard run-of-the-mill bat to this. Like, check out this flying temple with cannons. And look, a sandworm. The collision detection isn't what you'd expect with some of the enemies, however, and you can actually occupy the same space as them without taking a hit, which can make it sometimes difficult to know what can actually hurt you. The bosses are big and fun, and require finesse and pattern recognition to defeat, although the challenge and complexity isn't at the same level as something like the Mega Man games, for example. Like, the second last boss of the whole game is a joke, with the most predictable pattern that I could show you the entirety of, literally before even finishing this sentence. Yeah, that was it. But, I will say, the final boss of this game is absolutely amazing, and really puts both your fighting and movement skills to the test. See that giant mutant rocket taking off? Yeah, that's the boss. And you not only need to keep up, but outpace it and take out its freaky heads along the way. It is hard, but you can beat it, and when you do, you'll probably react just like I did.
Down to the friggin' wire here. Oh my god!
Yeah, that's what I look like, by the way. Anyways, graphically, this game is really just bananas. Not so much from a technical standpoint, but definitely from an artistic standpoint. Every character and environment is this creative amalgam of technology and Asian iconography, no doubt dreamed up on some peyote-fueled vision quest. It's like if H.R. Geiger really got into Japanese stuff. Like, look at this shit. Yeah. Great art design builds a great world, which makes me even more curious as to what the hell is going on, which is unfortunate because there really isn't much else in the story other than what I explained earlier. Like, who are these people that keep morphing into bosses? And who is this guy who keeps showing up and fighting you until you relieve him of his shirt in Act 5? Dude, I was trying to kill you, not get you naked. So, bad news, the music sucks. Well, it's not exactly painful to the ear, but my brother pretty much nailed it when I showed him a song and he said it sounds like a really great song with the notes all in the wrong order. And the sound effects don't redeem anything. Typical sword swishes and explosions. At least they could have recorded a sample of some guy going, Hagane! Or something. And now we get to the part where we discuss whether this game is worth your time and money. Well, let me say, if you asked me back in 1995, I probably would say just rent it, because you can nudge your way through the whole game in just about 3 hours. Since then, a number of weird factors have combined to make the North American copy of this game currently cost close to $1,000 USD, making the answer to the initial question a resounding no! Why the hell is it so expensive, you're probably asking? Well, here's where we get to the conversation piece part. See, in 1995, interest in the SNES was starting to wane. On top of that, we have a game that was printed in very limited quantities and sparsely distributed, especially when compared to the other big titles that were coming out at that time. Probably because the publisher knew how niche this kooky shit would be. The game is good, however, and as time went on, people who had the game held on to it, and people who didn't have the game wanted it. Add on top of that a bunk rumor about how this was a Blockbuster rental-only game, and people started thinking it was extremely rare, which further puffed up the price. And I'm amazed at how bloody difficult it is to disprove that rumor, because somehow nobody seems to recall ever buying it. So throw all those things together and you get a $1,000 game. Shit, even the instruction manual alone costs $1,000, and I ain't paying that no matter how tantalizing the lore here looks. Alright, get out of here. It's also worth mentioning that there was never a re-release of this game. Your cheapest non-emulation way of playing Hagane would actually probably be picking up a Super Famicom along with the Japanese version. And that's fine, cause shit, they didn't do a heck of a lot of localizing for this game anyways. Okay, with all of that being said, Hagane swoops in at a respectable 7.1 out of 10. A great, challenging playthrough that's fun to look at, tough to listen to, and impossible to afford. Have fun.
Hagane, Cyber Samurai Fuma Clan. Iconography all the way from Japan. Back flipping jump, wind up the attack. When you swing the katana, you get cut like banana. Koma Clan, bad man, come back. Murder man, body but man, brain left intact. Personality extremely combative. Violated, having pathway for Armageddon.